Leaders and healers, gamers and claimers, ladies and gentlemen from around the universe, from around the globe, from around the community, welcome to the Power, Purpose, and Passion podcast. I am your host, Anthony Cheam, speaker, life coach, author, trainer, musician, singer, songwriter, friend to you, mentor to you, coach to you, personally, professionally, in every aspect of your life, podcast host, ready to give to you the best of what I've learned and earned of being in this beautiful industry of self-help, health, spirituality, emotional fitness, mental fitness, relationships, upgrading of all the areas of my life so I can give and share to you what I've learned over the past 20 years of studying, of attending, of reading, of dissecting all the material, wisdom, knowledge, information, so you can ultimately claim your power, clarify your purpose, cultivate your deepest, widest, and highest passions possible. So you know you can upgrade and update your life and live the best possible life, bettering yourself, besting yourself, taking your life to the next level, and then ultimately the ultimate fulfillment and meaning comes from then sharing and caring and learning and earning what you've earned, and then returning it to the world around you, the community, friends, family, whomever you want to share it with, because that's where you get the massive joy, lasting change, lasting transformation, lasting love, and experience of life at the deepest, most profound levels. So thank you for joining us, whether you're listening to this passively or actively on Instagram, Facebook, or wherever you are. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in on a consistent basis, because man, that's all I want to do is share. I feel like I wake up every day just with so much joy, so much love, and I just want to share it. And this is one avenue, one vehicle, my delivery system to share my gifts to you. And hopefully one day you and I will meet in a seminar or an event or wherever you are in the world, and you and I can become friends, and you can share your stories with me, and I can share my stories with you, and we can become friends, and you can amplify my life. You can share with, because Cam has done that for me too as well. You know, I've mentored him and coached him for a number of years now, and he's teaching me now. And that's what true partnership and friendship is all about, is teaching each other, preaching to each other, calling each other's on each other's crap from time to time, but then elevating each other, not from a place of poverty, not from a place of criticism, but from a place of caring, compassion, and love for each other's growth and expansion. So today's episode, before I get into today's episode, I want to introduce my power partner in crime, my power partner in rhyme, Cameron Dubé. What's up, man? C-Dubs in the house.
Hello.
What's up?
C-Dubs here. How's it going?
What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm doing well. I've recently had like this weird itchy outbreak of, you can call it a rash, but it was just like bumps, just white bumps that if you itched it, it would turn red. Yeah. Little patches all over my body. Weird, because I've never talked about any of this kind of stuff on the podcast in my life. But yeah, it started maybe about 4 nights ago. And I just recently, yesterday, realized that it is a direct manifestation of the stress I've been experiencing with my business and with all the different areas of my life, and being scattered and all over the place, and not being able to shut up my mind about it. My mind would be on 24/7 thinking about one of these things, right?
Yeah.
And so I would literally lie awake at night until 10 a.m., 7 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
And until I can finally get to bed. And then I'd only sleep like 3 or 4 hours because the itch wakes me up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much where I've been. Yesterday, I skateboarded all the way to Starbucks, which is like an hour-long skateboard in the rain.
Oh my gosh.
But I just needed, I was just bored. I just needed something. So I went all the way out there to meet a friend. But before he got there, I had like an hour and a half to myself, and I just started journaling. Like I could not stop writing. And I kind of journaled in the sense where I was trying to explain to somebody else what my rash was.
Yeah.
And I started writing how it's the stress, it's the feeling of overwhelm and burden and all these things. And it's cool too, because from day one, I never was upset about the rash. I was always thinking like, this is a clear sign from the universe. Something that emotions can't tell me. It has to be my physical body, Yeah. It was really cool. So I don't know, we talked about this very briefly before we pressed record, so I decided to ask you, and I don't know what the title of today, actually yes I do, I wrote it down. The title of today,
the power of reflection.
So that's essentially what I did at Starbucks. I just wrote like 5 or 10 pages about myself, and I was able to reflect on what this meant to me, what I should be doing, and also like key questions that I never would have found. Because it's almost like you have a million questions that could all come together and make one big question. And that's where I was at. I probably asked myself 2 big questions by realizing that I have 150 questions. Just all the writing allowed me to narrow down and narrow down and narrow down more about myself and understand more and get the right question that I need answered, right? Which is almost the hardest thing. It's like, you know, you need an answer, but you don't know what question to ask.
Of course.
There's not enough self-awareness there. So that's essentially what I did. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, you know, before we went on the show, you basically shared with me your experience of the rash and the stress, and 90% of our physical disease as a result of stress in our world. And that's by a famous neurological scientist and Dr. Caroline Leaf. And she has proven and is of the belief that 90% of our diseases are a result of stress, emotional stress, mental stress, work stress, whatever it might be. And I remember even Dr. Deepak Chopra talked about how a long time ago they did a study. I think the World Health and Education Department did a study on heart disease and the 2 main causes of heart disease. And I remember him saying, you think it would be food or exercise or, you know, whatever it might be. He said 2 things that are the 2 primary causes of heart disease: unhappiness rating and job dissatisfaction. And it was like, wow, who would have thought that was? And he basically said, if you're satisfied with your job and you got a pretty happy, high rating overall in your life, you're probably not going to get heart disease. Whereas someone who is in a toxic environment, hates their job, hates their life, is stressed all the time, their happiness is at all-time low, their immune system is going to be susceptible to heart disease, cancer, whatever it might be, colds and flus and whatnot, right? And I don't remember the last time I got a crazy sickness and it bedridden me. But the point of the matter is that learning to stress relief, manage stress. But I was talking to Cam about a strategy called the trouble tree. And I might have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but the podcast was, the story is of a man who works crazy amounts of hours. He's going day and night and he hires an employer to finally help him. And the guy is stressed out and he's got a family at home. He's working long hours. And as he goes home, he gets out of his truck. He invites his new employee to have dinner with his wife and his children. He gets out of the car, goes over to a tree in the front yard, touches the tree, and all of a sudden his total state changed. All of a sudden he was happy. He walked in the door. His kids greet him. He was like in a completely different place. Hugged his wife, hugged his kids, and had a great time at dinner. It was like you couldn't even recognize the guy. And after dinner, as he's driving the guy home, he couldn't help, the employee couldn't help but ask the guy, so I noticed you when you got out of the car, you were stressed and you went over to a tree, you touched it, closed your eyes and took a moment. And then you were completely changed and you were in a good mood and you hugged your wife and you're feeling like nothing bad happened that day. And he says, oh, that's my trouble tree. He says, every time I come home from work, I go over to my tree, I touch it to remind me that I'm home now, that not to bring my troubles home with me. So he touches the tree. It symbolizes, it's symbolic of him transferring the trouble to a tree so he could go home and spend time with his family, have a great time, go to sleep with no worries. And then the very next day, he returns, goes back to the trouble tree, touches the tree, and returns back to where he started the previous night before. And I think that's a great sort of ritual for people out there. I know for me, I'm driven. And when I get focused, man, get out of the way because I get driven. But there are times when I need to actually shut that off because then my relationship with my wife or my kids starts to suffer. My spiritual meditation starts to suffer because I'm thinking about other things. But what I tend to do is go through a ritual, either an affirmation or I touch my heart, and I ask myself the question, what's really important right now? And then I allow my answers to unfold. So allowing yourself to get in touch with a ritual. So when you're overwhelmed, stepping away just like Cam did, go for an hour skateboard ride to Starbucks, whatever it might be, get yourself out of that environment. And one of the things that you'll find is when you return, you have that much more clarity. So for the people listening on Instagram or Facebook, what's your version of a trouble tree? Maybe when you get home, you're stressed and you walk in the door and like, freaking out because you've had a bad day at work. Maybe before you go home, before you touch the knob, you touch a plant, or you look at the sun, you close your eyes, or you look up at the sky, you take a deep breath in, and you imagine exhaling all your troubles to the sky, and then you enter your home and everything's fine. And then when you return, then you can breathe that trouble or that worry back in the next day if you want to, and that way you will return with much more clarity, much more focus, and be able to handle those challenges from a deeper, more profound and broadened space. I found that to be very, very helpful for me for dealing with stress, for dealing with overwhelm, overload, whatever it might be. But so maybe for the people listening on the show is to come up with your own ritual where you leave your troubles somewhere else, symbolic of a tree, or you touch a plant, or you come home and you look up to the sky, as I said, and you breathe in and exhale your troubles, and imagine your troubles just basically lifting like a balloon to the sky, and then you walk in and all your troubles are gone. And that way you can actually leave your work at work. And then when you leave your home, you can return back to your workspace and with more clarity. And that's the key moment. For me, anytime I feel like I have writer's block, I have to kind of just step away for a moment, maybe an hour or 2 hours, maybe a couple of days. And then when I return, boom, it returns. So stepping away, stepping forward, not really stepping into a challenge to break the challenge, but actually coming up with some sort of pattern where before you get home to work or before you get home, you basically leave that trouble on whatever piece of we got a tree, whatever it is, your house, your car, whatever it might be. You might even say this, do this, or some sort of deep breath or yoga posture to actually get you out of that state and into love and calmness and peace. Now, there's a great story that reminds me of it. Just came up in my mind now, and it's called The Doctor, the Man, and the Four Prescriptions. What a great story this was. And this man, he's majorly depressed, and he's kind of reflecting on his life. And this particular episode is called The Power of Reflection. And he goes to his doctor, and he says, I feel like depressed, I'm down, maybe prescribe me some antidepressants. He said, okay, I'm going to give you 4 prescriptions. And before I prescribe any antidepressant, I want you to take these 4 prescriptions at certain times of the day. And he asked this man, is there a place that symbolizes peace and calmness when you were a kid and it was all playful and fun? And the guy said, yeah, the beach. I always had a good time at the beach. He said, okay, tomorrow you're going to take these 4 prescriptions to the beach. You're going to arrive there at 9 a.m. and then you're going to open up prescription number 1. And at 12 o'clock, you're going to open up prescription number 2. At 3 o'clock, you're going to open up prescription number 3. And at 6 o'clock, you're going to open up prescription number 4. And if after the 4 prescriptions and you're done with doing what the prescriptions say to do, and you still feel down, I will prescribe an antidepressant. So the very next day, the guy's like crazy with anticipation. He gets up really early, arrives at the beach, sits down, gets on a rock, just starts. And at 9 a.m., he opens up the first prescription, and all it says on the piece of paper is listen. So for the next 3 hours, all he does is sit at the beach and listens to the wind, listens to the water crashing on the rocks for 3 hours straight. And he just sits and listens. That's all he does. And then at 12 o'clock, he opens up the second prescription. And in it says, reach back. Look back at your past. Look back at your life. And he's going back for 3 hours from 12 to 3. He's looking back at his whole life. Good times, bad times. Things that he's done well, things that he screwed up. Mistakes, betrayals, lies. So he's on an up and down roller coaster thinking about his past. Thinking about the good things that he's missed, the people that he's hurt, the people that have hurt him. So it was a troubling 3 hours for him just to reach back at it in his past. And at 3 o'clock, he opens up the third prescription. And in it says, re-examine your motives for living. So he starts to reflect on what's important now. What's driving me now? What's important now? Starts to ask himself powerful questions. What do I value? What is life about now based on where I am in my life now, based on the age I'm at, on the accomplishments, the failures? What can I do now to make a bigger difference in the world and what's important now? And for the next 3 hours, he starts writing in a journal all these things about what's life going to be like from this point on. And for the next 3 hours, he does that in his journal. And at 6 o'clock, finally, he opens up the fourth prescription. And on the piece of paper, it says, write your worries in the sand. And so he gets a stick and he thought about something that was worrying him. And he wrote his worries in the sand It took him about 15 minutes to do so. And as he did so, he looked at what he wrote down in the sand, walked away. And as he was walking away, he looked back and he found that the water washed away the sand and the worries itself. And he got in his truck and drove away. Why is that important, that story? I mean, I told it in many different ways, but you get the basis of that story is to reflect, is to take a step back from life oftentimes and to reflect and re-examine who we are, what we're meant to do. Maybe perhaps we're in a place of too much contentment. Maybe we're in a place of stuckness. Maybe we're in a place where life has no meaning. And that's when we need to take those 4 prescriptions, go to a place of peace and serenity, listen, look back, re-examine our motives, and write our worries in the sand and let the water wash it away. Sometimes we need those days. And that's why, things like seminars and retreats are so powerful and so popular these days, because people use it as a means to get away, to recharge, to reinvigorate, whether it be in nature, whether it be a seminar, self-help seminar, whatever it might be. But oftentimes what happens is that we get caught up. And as Cameron shared so honestly, that sometimes it manifests, we got to listen to our body, that it's manifesting as physical disease in our body. I remember even a time when my wife, my son was going his first year of school at JK, and he hated it. And I remember him crying like profusely each and every single time she dropped him off at school. And it was heartbreaking for mom. It was heartbreaking for my wife. And she started getting these rashes just like Cam. And